Hello everybody, MegaZardX here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video. And for today, I wanted to do my review impressions on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I've been playing this game for a little over 26 hours, and I'm roughly a little past the 50% marker in the game, and oh shoot. This game right here is definitely a contender for Game of the Year for me personally, and probably for a lot of y'all out there as well though, because there's so much stuff that Square Enix managed to put into this game, and it's just so satisfying seeing all of the elements come together today. And I was like, you know what? I played enough of this game where I just had to give my honest thoughts on this game though. So that's what we're gonna be doing in today's video though. So if you hadn't already done so, make sure you go and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight up into this video. All right, so in terms of this review impressions, every little bit of stuff you're going to be seeing on the screen is just going to be basically just fight moments and stuff within the grassland areas. It's like one of the first few areas you manage to unlock within the game, so you won't see or expect to see any kind of story related stuff, and the other kind of footage might be, you know, just official trailers released from Square Enix themselves though. But first we got to talk about the world exploration, because I can't say how much I knew this game was going to be big based upon the original Final Fantasy VII. Like, you know, the first few hours of the original FS7 game were mostly in Midgard. And then after that first few hours, the world really opens up. And if you can think back to the original one, it was kind of some barren old, you know, grasslands, some wastelands and stuff. And you're trying to get from A to B, maybe to get to one city and stuff. So it's like, you knew there was gonna be a lot they're gonna put up in here though, but you just had no idea how much they really were gonna, you know, chunk up into this world. Like it's filled up to the brim with stuff that you can do. Obviously, the second you leave out of that first little town, the grasslands open up. Obviously, there's a lot of enemies and stuff you can fight. There's also a bunch of side quests that you can do on the side. And then there's also these little things that are called like towers, which is kind of similar to the towers you kind of saw within games like Breath of the Wild or Tears in the Kingdom, but they don't necessarily show you more of the map. Like the map, when they first open it up, it's like pretty cloudy. It will, you know, clear up a little bit as you know, traverse a little bit more so in the game though. But activating those towers actually give you more things to explore about the world that kind of helps with the world building though, because literally, you know, when you go through and unlock a tower, Chanley, you know, the dude that originally kind of gave you those little mission quests and stuff within the first FS7 remake game, you know, he's back once again. I feel like this dude talks a little too much for his own good, I'm just saying though. But basically he explains how, hey, you can go through and do towers within a given area, you can fight against Shimra and some other aspects though, do these other unique battle request things, and, you know, maybe find these small little areas that have, like, you know, a lot of materia energy kind of flowing up within it though, and, you know, kind of tells you about the environment and the world that you're actually exploring within a given region that you're in. So there's a lot of things that you can do just from the exploration aspect within this game though. So, you know, you can lose yourself, literally you can lose yourself in that first area, and you can do like 5 hours worth of exploration or something like that and not even touch the main story. Like there's so much stuff, like there's a reason why they said, hey, when you're playing through this game, if you're doing nothing but main story, it could take you about 40 hours to beat. But if you want to do everything like side quests and all these other little things with world exploration, it could take up to like over 100 hours though. And I'm fully feeling that effect of what they said right there though. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do up in this world though. Now, in terms of the actual performance of the game, you know, when I first booted up the game, I don't know why, but they immediately put you within, you know, there's two different modes. There's performance and there's the graphics mode, and they automatically start you off in the graphics mode. And the graphics mode, obviously you can get up to 4K, but it's 30 frames per second. And this is probably the most jarring 30 frames per second that I have ever seen in any kind of game. Like, I went through and played other games that are like, you know, lower FPS, like, you know, games such as like Xenoblade and stuff. That's also some action RPGs and stuff. You know, Astral Chain was like a lower, you know, frames per second stuff. I'm like, those don't feel nearly as jarring as this one though. And I've seen a lot of people go back and forth to whether or not do you put up with the, you know, the better graphics within this, or do you put up with the frame rate. And at least for me personally, since this is an action RPG through and through, performance was the way I had to go. So for some reason you couldn't, you know, switch that mode on that very first beginning mission though. But however, after that, as soon as I was able to hit the pause menu and go into the settings, I immediately flipped it to performance, and I never turned back since, though. I'm curious to see what some of y'all might say, maybe in the comment section, based upon, if you happen to choose performance or graphics, though. But that graphics mode, man, I can't do those 30 frames per second. It just looked really rough. Like, I'm just saying, though. Now, in terms of the characters and the combat, you still have the same core cast of characters from Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, and Aerith, though, but within this game they managed to add some more playable characters. Obviously, we got introduced to Red 13 at the tail end of FF7 remake. He wasn't playable then, but now he's fully playable, so that's cool. And then obviously we managed to play as Yuffie within Final Fantasy VII Integrate DLC, and she becomes a playable character within this game as well. And if you know anything else about FF7, they do manage to hit us with a couple more characters you managed to unlock a little bit on later in the story, though. But I would say all the combat from between all these different characters are extremely fun, and I feel like each one of these characters brings something else different to the table. Like, obviously Cloud is your pretty good all-arounder between if you want to use him in terms of just a pure physical threat, or if you want to use him a little bit magical. Aerith is the only one out of the whole cast of characters I'm just not too fond of using, because I don't know, I like how she's a distant range attacker though, but I don't know, something with the magic attacks and how the speed of how they come out, it just doesn't vibe, at least with my gameplay style. But Tifa's cool because she can kind of get up in there, try to stagger enemies a little bit quicker though. And then obviously you have Barrett, who's like the king of long range, and then you can just do your firing rounds and stuff like that. Yuffie is really cool because she has a good little balance of both, so you can kind of get in close and then kind of jump back a little bit, throw your shuriken and stuff. And then Red 13, I honestly having a really good amount of time using Red 13. Like, I've been enjoying all the combat with him. Like, I don't know, he just perfectly fits my fighting style, at least while I'm going through and playing through this game though. Just kind of getting in there, tearing in with your claws and stuff, and just spinning and attacking and stuff. It is really cool, to say the least, though. And the one cool thing that they introduced new within this game was the fact that you have these synergy attacks, where you can actually get to combo two of your different units together and release like a special all-out attack on an enemy or whoever you happen to be facing at the time, which is really cool because you get some pretty good pairings between everybody. Like, I think there's a pairing for at least every combination you can think of within the game between all your cast of characters. So it's this nice little bonus thing up on there. Now, I will say this, in terms of the boss fights, maybe it was just the first couple or a few, but I was getting my butt kicked around a little bit though. Maybe it's just kind of getting reintroduced to the fighting style that is the FF7 remake combat style within the game. So I don't know, it seemed a little tough at first, but then the more and more I invested within this game, I started to get used to the combat a little bit more though. So it ain't no easy cakewalk. You will get you might get your cheeks clapped a couple of times though, but you learn swiftly enough how, to get in, do your few little combos here, switch to another character, block right here, dodge roll over here. Like, it'll all start to make sense the more and more you get to play the game though. But I think one of the cool things they also do in this game is, since the cast of characters get up to like 6+ different characters at one point in the game, there are certain moments in missions where it will force you to have to use certain combinations of characters within your whole entire roster for like a given mission or something like that. So it does force you to actually play into, different groups of characters, figure out, how does their team synergy work versus, just being able to freely choose between all of them though. So it does kind of put you in some very unique scenarios like that. And then also like some few traversing elements within the game, where it's like Yuffie has to, do one mission where she has to like swing tightrope and stuff like that though, or Barrett has to, shoot some things from long distant range. Like, there's a little bit of platforming or traversing around where you have to do it uniquely within like a certain character given the scenario though. So there's a lot of cool things they managed to introduce within that aspect of the game now. In terms of the main quest, oh shoot, I loved every little bit of what I managed to see, at least for the first 50% of the game though. Honestly, you had your core original 4 characters, but then getting the introduction to people like as Yuffie and Red 13 in the mix though. Like, Yuffie is such a comic relief character. I love every little aspect that she manages to bring to the table though. But at least within the synergy of all of these different characters, like, you wouldn't think all of them would, naturally, manage to lean on each other. Like, what? You got Barrett, a dude that has a machine gun as an arm, to be a mercenary. And then you have Aerith over here that's an ancient that has some deep ties within the earth itself, though. And then you got like an average person like Tifa. Like, you wouldn't think, a random, group of people like that would manage to vibe and connect with each other that well. But the way how Final Fantasy VII manages to portray them, it's so good. Especially considering if you play the original FF7 and see what they do within Rebirth. Obviously, there are some scenes up in here, and I won't go too deep with this really though. But there are some scenes up in here where it's like, they didn't happen in the original version, but they make references to other games such as Crisis Core, which actually happened to be like a prequel game to the series that, obviously we didn't see that game until much later after the original release of FF7. So they usually take some aspects from that game and incorporate it into here though. So if you want to get the biggest bang of your buck out of this story, playing the original FF7 just to kind of have an idea of what will actually happen next one in the story, as well as the just the world environments and the places that you manage to go, such as like the Golden Saucer and such. It's nice to have that aspect. But then obviously you need to play 7 Remake, because that's the first part that comes before Rebirth though. But also Crisis Core Reunion, because I can't say how many times I used the word reunion up in this game though. And there are some elements up in here where they actually, bring in the question some characters that you wouldn't think should be in this game though. But whole shoot, I wasn't expecting them to do like a Kingdom Hearts 2 scenario, at least in terms of starting off the game. If you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm just really curious to see how they're going to incorporate that said given character and incorporate them within the rest of the story though. So it's little things like that where it's like, hey, I just love to see how all of this stuff forms together within the main storyline. And I'm just curious to see how this story is going to end though, because obviously this isn't a quote unquote remake as the way how we normally expect remakes are within the given industry. Because when we think about remake, we literally think about it from the term of, okay, a company is remaking this game and it's pretty close to being a one-to-one. However, you look at the definition of remake, yes, you're remaking something. Like, imagine if you broke a pottery vase or something like that, and you try to piece it together. Yes, you're remaking it, but is it necessarily a one-to-one? You might have a piece missing. When you glue an edge up on there, maybe it's not at the precise angle it needs to be. So necessarily, when you remake something, it's not necessarily always going to be one-to-one. And I think that's what Square Enix is trying to portray within this game. It's not necessarily an exact one-to-one remake though. They're just remaking and retelling this story a little bit differently from what we normally would expect within the gaming industry though. So I really love everything they managed to do and portray within the main story, and I'll leave it at that. In terms of the side quests, I actually love all the side quests that they have up in this game. Within most games, like if I think back to a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, usually with those kind of games, I normally expect there to be like 1,000,001 side quests. I'll do some here and there, just get a little bit of money, getting a little bit of experience, and just call it a day though. But even within like the first region of the game within the grasslands, there's like only like 5 or 6 or so side quests. Maybe a little bit more gets added on a little bit later when you get more characters introduced to your team, but there's not like 1,000,001 side quests. There's like a good handful for each region, and you can take it piece by piece though. And I think within these side quests, they're all fully voiced, and it feels like most of these side quests it feels like they will naturally be part of the main story. They're that rewarding, like, you get some good stuff out of it. Obviously you get experience for not only just your character, but also your party experience, which actually allows you to gain new unique moves and stat boosts and stuff, whether it be to your offense or your defense and stuff. Putting together all of that stuff, it's pretty rewarding from the experience, and then let alone the world building and stuff that allows you to do, because there are some side quests where you probably want to do them because it does allow you to be able to fast travel a little bit more conveniently. That's all I would say on that though. So yeah, so just given that little fact alone makes a lot of the side quests pretty rewarding and stuff. And holy dude, don't even get me started on the mini games and stuff. This game is chock full of mini games. Obviously the big main one is Queen's Blood, which I'm not a card game person. Shoot, if you don't have good cards up in this game, you might get your cheeks clapped a couple of times. I did myself personally though. I've seen a lot of people like it. Some people don't necessarily like it though, but it's okay to me. Nothing too crazy outside of that though. But then obviously there's a lot of other mini games up in here, from like Chocobo Racing, all the events that you're able to do within the Golden Saucer. Like, there's some quality mini games up in here, and I think this is probably the most mini games they managed to have within the Final Fantasy series. So I'm like, you know what? They kind of outdid themselves. Like, I've been having some pretty good fun times with most of these mini games and stuff. So between all of this stuff, between the world exploration, the performance, the characters and combat, obviously the main story and then side quest mini games, you'll be up in this game. Even though they say you can beat as quick as 40 hours, expecting myself to probably take up to like 60 hours or so before I, manage to say, you know what, I'm going to be done with the game and finish with the main story. There's just that much stuff that you can be able to do within this game. So overall, there's a ton of stuff, exploration, the battles themselves, the mini games, the side quests, and obviously the big main story that's portraying everything that's happening within Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This game is so chock full of content. Like, it can go on and on and on. Obviously I was just scratching the surface with a lot of these things within my given review impressions video right here, though. There's a lot of other stuff you can do within the fine details within the menus, like upgrading your weapons and stuff, dealing and messing around with your materia, and customizing your parties and stuff, doing shortcut commands to make battles a little more easier, a little more simplistic. This game goes on, and it's just crazy to think that Square Enix managed to make this game between Final Fantasy VII Remake that released in 2020 all the way to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that released in 2024. It only took them a 4-year turnaround and stuff. And that was including them making the Integrate DLC in between all of that. So it's just crazy to believe that they're able to do this much stuff within Final Fantasy VII. And I was like, you know what? If they take this template that they have right here and incorporate it to whatever comes next within Final Fantasy 17, 16 was a great game, don't get me wrong, and it's still like one of my top 3 games of 2023 though. I would love to see and have and experience this feeling of camaraderie, the sense of exploration, the fantasy element within Final Fantasy be portrayed in future iterations for Final Fantasy 17 and onward though. I mean, yes, some people might prefer turn-based though, but this action-based game, man, they're doing a lot of things right, and they're really cooking with hot grease up in that kitchen though, because man, I don't know what Square Enix is over there doing though, but man, they're making a really fun and phenomenal game, and easily a Game of the Year contender for 2024 though. So that's gonna do it in terms of my review impressions for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But you gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all do you think about this game overall in general. Are you really loving it? How many hours have you managed to put up in here? Roughly at what percentage are you at within the game though? Are you loving all the new introduction to all these characters, the way how they play, and then the story? Like, oh shoot, like I know they got these twists and fates up in this game though. I'm looking to see what kind of events are gonna alter and change from the original FS7 line right there. Y'all just gotta let me know. And that's gonna basically do it in terms of this video right here. So if you really like it, make sure you go and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So remember y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.